Hi guys, so today's video is going to be my summer TBR. I have 20 plus books on this list. I'm not going to be going super in depth about what each book is about, but I just wanted to give an overview of some books I'm interested in picking up. I don't know if I'll get to all of these. I know for some people on BookTube, 20-ish books is what they read in a month, but I'm just not that fast of a reader. I might here and there allow myself to be a mood reader, so there might be a few on this list that get swapped for different things, and I'm going to be more so starting this list with July. But anyway, jumping into it, I'm going to be starting with the buddy read books, and I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, but I know not everybody keeps up to date with everything. So at the beginning of, well, technically I think the end of 2020, my friend Jessie and I made a list of books that we wanted to read for this year, one book per month. And we very tentatively said that we would be doing live shows initially, but then we would play it by ear later. And that's because at the time Jessie was pregnant, but she hadn't told people yet. And since then she has had her little baby girl. So yay, that's obviously happy news, but she is adjusting to new mom life. So I'll have her channel linked. She's lovely, but we may or may not end up doing live shows, we'll see, but those books would be the 12 Kings of Sherakai, Hood, and Never Die. So 12 Kings of Sherakai is a desert setting in a fantasy story, Hood is a Robin Hood retelling, and then I don't know too much about Never Die, I've just seen it pop up here and there. Next up would be a romance book, which is very different. I don't really read romance books, but we did a video, my husband and I, a little while back where we had to rank the sexiest men in fiction. It was kind of a silly Valentine's Day video, and it was kind of a game as well where he had to guess my ranking and then he would give his ranking. And we kind of had this thing where if he wasn't able to get the majority of them or whatever, it was there's a punishment, and the punishment had to do with reviewing like a really saucy romance book. And ultimately I felt like it was kind of hard. The game was a little difficult, so I decided, how about we both have to read it and review it together? So I'm thinking that he and I are going to read this kind of how we did that game for Valentine's Day for a romance book. We're thinking of reading that around our anniversary. It just seemed fitting. So our anniversary is in September, so fingers crossed that we can get around to the romance book in that month. If you have suggestions, I would love to see them. I know some lovely romance booktubers have given suggestions, and I'm going to look through those, but I'm thinking some kind of Scottish Highland type thing because my husband is a little Scottish. Next up is just a bunch of Joe Abercrombie. So I've read the First Law trilogy, I have read the first of his standalones, Best Served Cold, and I'm hoping to hopefully very soon read The Heroes. But then after that, I just want to catch up on all of his adult fantasy. Maybe not the short stories, but the standalones and then the start of the new series. And then I want to get caught up so that I can read the new one when it comes out. I might do an entire kind of marathon. Maybe I'll have a week or two dedicated to just reading a bunch of Abercrombie books. Maybe I'll space it out within 1 month, but either way, I really want to catch up. I've heard really good things about the continuation series. Some people seem to think it's even better than First Law, and I don't say this in a snobby way, but I feel like I still have yet to read the absolute best of Abercrombie, which I think is a good thing because obviously you don't want an author to peak at the beginning and then everything else just isn't as good. Next up is a book I've actually already started at the time that I'm filming this, and that would be The Color of Law. It has to do with how laws and policies throughout America have contributed to segregation literally in where people live. Like I said, I've started it, so it is it's not that it's dense, it's so much information and it's so many facts. It's not really personal, it doesn't feel like documentary style, it just feels like a case to show how the US has contributed to this issue in America. I'm also hoping to read the memoir Know My Name. This is one that came highly recommended by all of you. It has to do with a sexual assault survivor. I know it's a very heavy topic, but I've heard that the book is absolutely phenomenal, so I'm hoping to get around to that. Next up, we have The 100 Years' War on Palestine. I ended up grabbing this book after seeing more things on the news, on social media, and just realizing that I do not have very much knowledge on this subject, on Palestine, on its history, and that's something that I would like to be more informed on. We also have some Book of the Month books that I'm wanting to read. One of them would be The Vanishing Half, and this is something I saw a lot of people reading last year. It was very popular. And then a couple of others would be Salvage the Bones and Infinite Country. I don't know a ton about these. I know Salvage the Bones is written by Jesmyn Ward, who is a very highly praised author, and then Infinite Country, I believe, details the difficulties surrounding a family who are immigrants or who are trying to leave where they are. So those I think are going to be kind of hard-hitting. Maybe have to read them in between some of the fantasy books. Speaking of fantasy books, maybe some pick-me-ups. We have Wild Card by Marie Lu. This is a sequel to Warcross. A lot of people seem to think Warcross is one of Marie Lu's weaker books. I picked it up. I actually found it kind of fun, and I want to see what I think of the next one, because a lot of people don't seem to like the next one, but then I didn't have the very popular opinion about the first one, so we'll find out with that. We also have the conclusion to the Ember and the Ashes series by Saba Tahir. I've read the first 3. I just have to read that last one. It's one of those series that I'm hoping to finish this year. I also really want to finish the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I never shut up about Ninth Reign, so it's about time that I get around to finishing the rest of the series. It's kind of fun to see some of you who picked up Ninth Reign after me and then see that you finished the series and that you've loved it. It just makes me so excited to keep going, and I'm excited that so many people are getting into this series. But yes, I need to finish it. Next up, we have some books that were anticipated releases for me for this year. We have Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and then Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. Half Sick of Shadows is an adult debut from what was a YA author. They wrote the Ash Princess trilogy, which I thought was very fun, and I'm really excited to see how they transition into writing adult fantasy. It is a King Arthur retelling, but from the perspective of one of the female characters. And then Six Crimson Cranes is the same author who wrote Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk, which I enjoyed. I think a lot of people were under the impression that the book was going to be a little bit different than it ended up being, but I ultimately really enjoyed it. It was quite cozy. It was exactly what I needed at the time that I picked it up, and I'm so excited for Six Crimson Cranes. So excited. So it's one of those books that I'm like, do I have to read other things first? I suppose maybe I should, but I can't wait to pick this one up. A couple of other sequels would be Redemptor. This is the sequel to Raybear, which, okay, am I the only person who did not realize there was a face on the cover of the UK edition? I own the UK edition. It's gorgeous. I didn't realize there was a face in it. I saw the sequel. I'm sorry for this tangent. I saw the sequel's cover, and I'm like, oh, cool, they did like a face in between the animals. And I was thinking, did they do that for the first one too? And I just never noticed. And yep, that is exactly what they did. But am I the only one who didn't notice? Also, speaking of faces on the covers, the old edition of Fireborn. How many of you saw the profiles? How many in the dragon wings? How many of you, this is apparently dragon wings, how many of you noticed that? It took me so long to realize that there were faces. The conclusion to a trilogy that's coming out that I'm so excited for would be Wings of Shadow by Nikki Palpretto. This is the wrap-up to the Crown of Feathers trilogy. If you like phoenixes, highly recommend this one. I do think it leans a little on the younger side of YA, but sometimes I just want those more youthful stories. Like I said before, we have some heavier nonfiction or just fiction stories, and then we also have, you know, the adult fantasy, the Abercrombie and the Ninth Reign that are really intense. So yeah, I sometimes want this cozy YA nostalgic feel. Speaking of heavier books, we also have Just Mercy. This was a nonfiction book I had put on a previous TBR that I didn't get around to. Another adult fantasy book would be The Pariah. This is one that I got an ARC for. It is by Anthony Ryan. I actually saw Piera Ford. She has read it already, and she gave it 4 stars, and she thought that the character in the book reminded her of Valen from Bloodsong by the same author, and I love Valen, so that makes me even more excited for this. I'm also hoping to pick up In Order to Live. This is about a girl from North Korea and her story about leaving North Korea. Next up, we have The Wolf. So my friend Jessie has the Shelf Space Book Club book pick, and Alan from the Library of Alexandria and Leanna are kind of taking over for a month, and they are going to be reading The Wolf, so I would like to read that also. I know Leanna is a huge fan of this. It sounds really fascinating. It's kind of like what if other human-like beings survived the Ice Age is the setup, and that's how she kind of describes it. She describes it better and in more detail, but either way, it sounds really fascinating, so I'm really excited for this one. If I can, I might try to continue with The Faithful and the Fallen. We will see. I don't know. I don't know about a lot of these, but this one in particular is not super high priority because I did find the first book in this series to be kind of slow going, and I have heard really good things about the rest of the series, so I'm hoping that it won't feel that way. It won't feel like as much setup. Maybe it can just feel like we're going. That's it for my summer TBR. Let me know what books you're hoping to read. Let me know if there's any on this list that you are also hoping to get around to. If you've read them, let me know your thoughts. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.